Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Saturday, March 25th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Indiana game is in 161 days. The game against Michigan in 245 days. The first scrimmage of the spring for Ohio State is today. We'll have a bunch of coverage from the Woody Hayes coming up a little later on in the day. You're going to want to make sure you are on youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. You will be able to find all sorts of coverage there. Here's the rules. We can't shoot video. We can't tweet about it. We can't do anything during the scrimmage. As soon as that scrimmage is over, we'll be able to talk to Ryan Day, get his thoughts, and then give you some insight and analysis on all the stuff we saw. It is going to be Tony Gerderman, Kevin Noon, and Mark Givler all there covering that for you. So make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. You'll be able to find all that information there. Tomorrow morning's morning show, I will not be there. Don't worry, I'll be back the day after. I'm just missing one. Sorry. You'll have to make do with those guys for one day. Don't worry, I'll be back the day after that. So, all right. So that's something to look forward to a little later on today and tomorrow morning. Now let's talk a little bit about the Ohio State offensive line. We get a chance to talk to Justin Frye, the Ohio State offensive line coach and run game coordinator, earlier this week. That is really a position group that there's a lot of eyes on that all spring because the Buckeyes are replacing three departed starters: Paris Johnson, DeJuan Jones, and Luke Whippler. So both tackle spots and the center spot. There's going to be a lot of different guys shuffling in and out in all those different spots, and who's going to be the backups and all that kind of stuff. So a lot to talk about there about that offensive line. So let's talk about that with Justin Frye. Let's just start with a real basic one. Justin, got a lot of turnover there, buddy. A lot of pressure to figure that out before the start of the season. So how you feeling right now?
Really good. Guys have been competing. We got to play the game a little bit today for the first time versus the defense, so it was good for the kids to go out and play the game. But still the same. We're rolling a lot of guys, so I know that question will come up at some point. The answer is I still don't know. We're rolling a ton of guys with the ones, and we like it that way. So you're getting to see some young guys that haven't played do some things. You're getting to see some guys, do some positions that they might not have started at that they're moving to. But yeah, just getting out and to be able to kind of part a whole of individual group work, working with Larry's guys. We're doing a lot of stuff with the D-line, technique and fundamental work, and then getting to play the game a little bit at the end. That's been a lot of fun.
The front runner to replace Paris Johnson as the starting left tackle is Josh Fryer. He's someone who's played a little bit of guard, a little bit of tackle, a little bit of sort of extra tight end, extra offensive lineman in their Buffalo package before. So he's done a little bit of everything. So how is that move to left tackle going for him so far this spring?
Ryan said it really well after practice. You get to a spring and it's anew for everybody, right? We have everybody, new titles, new age groups, new positions, new freshmen to sophomore. I think Josh so far in spring has just embraced that role of like, okay, I'm now the next year guy. I'm the veteran guy in the room now. I've played some, I've been around the expectations. So he's probably embraced that the best just in his preparation, in his overall understanding or being proactive in things that may happen to play that position out on the edge. And so I've been really pleased so far with just kind of how he's trying to take the next step in training and the limited he practices at and how hard he goes, and then situationally when to use what technique and those things. You've seen that come out of him a little bit.
The race for the center position is something that we looked at as being pretty wide open before the spring practices started. But so far, second year, redshirt freshman, Carson Hines is someone who Ryan Day talked about as really standing out at center so far. So how is that going? What has he shown this spring to maybe be at least the very, very, very early front runner there? You're also going to hear as he's going to reference a bunch of other guys by their first name. So I'm just going to let you know when he talks about Victor, that is Victor Cutler, transfer from Louisiana Monroe. He will reference Toby Wilson, the son of former Ohio State offensive coordinator and current Tulsa head coach Kevin Wilson. Toby is a walk-on and a backup offensive lineman for Ohio State. And you also hear him reference Josh Padilla, true freshman who is also in the mix at center.
Well, the same deal. He's getting thrust in. If you think he's not even been here 12 months. So 12 months ago from now, he was still like baling hay and knocking icicles off the barn up in Wisconsin. So now there's Mike Hall and Tyleek and all those guys in front of him. Just getting out and competing that way has been good to see, because you never know how these guys are going to go until you let them go play the game. And so obviously we don't have games, but taking those live reps. He's embraced it. He's won some and he's lost some, so you got to learn from those, right? And the same with Victor. I mean, Victor played tackle last year. We brought Victor in here to be the inside guy. So now we just talked about a little bit with Josh, like adding the element of putting a ball in your hand and blocking the nose guard at Ohio State. You know, there's some adjustment there, but I think those guys that really haven't done a lot are biting into it. You know, Toby's floating around and getting some center reps too and doing a good job. He's another year older, so his understanding's helping him play a little better. And then you got Josh Padilla, who's the same guy. He played tackle at Wayne, and now all of a sudden, hey, here's the football. So you're playing one-handed. And it's not wrestling in the shot for a state tournament, and it's not playing, you know, Springfield anymore. You're playing a really good defense. So all those guys they're taking their lumps and they've shown some really good stuff so far.
Now that center position, there are a lot of responsibilities. Yeah, you got to snap the ball well, but you got to snap it, and then you also got to deal with a nose tackle who's 3 feet away from you, coming very, very hard. You also got to handle line calls, all that kind of stuff. That when you have a veteran center like Luke Whippler last year, it all looks easy. But if it doesn't go well, oh boy, that's a lot of pressure. So there are a lot of responsibilities there. So how important is it to know who the guy is going to be at center coming out of spring so that he has time to get ready for the fall?
Yeah, you'd like to, but you can't timestamp it. I mean, you go the other way. This was practice 4, so we have 11 practices left here and another 30 plus in fall camp. So you could look at it that way. It's kind of the tone you take, but no, the expectation for these guys right now is we've talked about it in spring ball, and you just got to embrace the process, right? If you love the process will love you back. So today was practice 4, and we played ball. And we had some good reps and we had some bad reps. So how do we enhance the good ones and how do we get better off the ones we lost?
There were a couple questions about Josh Frye's confidence. Josh Frye talked to himself about how he's getting a little bit more confident there. But what is his confidence level like right now, and how is Justin Frye seeing that play out on the field?
Well, we talked about that last year with Josh. Being number 6 is the hardest position to be for linemen because he wore 41. He went in some of our extra lineman packages, knowing he was right there, but you really couldn't get over the cusp, right? And guys take that 2 ways. They go in cruise control and put the governor on, or they just keep fighting and battling because I'm the next up guy and it might be me. And then he got his start the 1 week. You know, he played Indiana, played the home state school, which was good. And so, yeah, I think him feeling like starting to bear fruit, like I can really do this. This is the build-up. My knee's feeling better. I'm off the injury. A lot of those things do. And then just as I alluded to before, where now he's playing the position to own the position. He's not just taking reps. He's using the reps, you know. And that's shown with him so far.
This is going to be a very important cycle for the Buckeyes on the recruiting front on the offensive line. They're looking at taking 5, maybe even 6 guys. And they've gotten off to a pretty good start. They got Ian Moore, who is coming out of Indiana. They got Mark Nave coming out of the Toledo area. So you've got 2 guys already in the class. You've got a couple more in-state guys that I think people are feeling pretty good about. And then maybe you add another 1 or 2 on top of that. But this is going to be a big, full class for the Buckeyes on the offensive line in the recruiting front. So now, due to NCAA rules, Justin Frye can't talk about specific players at this point. Until they're signed, he can't talk about specific names. So you have to, when you ask him questions about recruiting, you got to do it a little more broadly. So here's the question. You know, is having someone like Paris Johnson, who's looking like he is probably on his way to being a first-round pick, is having someone like that to point to something that's maybe helping them a little bit on the recruiting trail right now?
You come to Ohio State to be a first-round pick. We offer kids to come to Ohio State to be the best version of themselves. And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's going to help recruiting, yeah. What does it change in recruiting? You got to evaluate the right people. You got to bring in the right people, and you got to make sure that you develop the kids. And you got to build relationships that way with the players in the room as they continue to grow. I mean, you look at that, like, my answer to that is, like, you got Tegra, you got Carson, you got George, you got Avery. Like, I wasn't involved with those guys at all, except for Carson, making sure we brought him home at the end, right? So your common ground is they want to be great, we want to make you great, this is a place to be great. If you have that opportunity and you take it, then that generally doesn't fail, right? And so now you look at these young kids that we have that come in there, they all should be going to prom in 6 weeks, not getting ready for the spring game on April 15th, right? So they're out here doing that, and they were they felt comfortable enough to do that, and we obviously felt comfortable enough to make them want to do that. So to see Paris and Luke and Dewan doing what they were doing the other day, and then now knowing I have that opportunity, if I work hard like that, if I execute that way, then yeah, that's great for recruiting.
Zen Michalski is right now taking most of the first team reps at right tackle for the Buckeyes. He is another potential starter. But Tegra Shabola, a second-year player, he's right in that mix as well. He's working mostly with the second team, but has taken some first-team reps as well. And it sounds like the first year for him, Tegra talked about the fact that there was just really a lot of learning, a real learning experience. Learning, for example, like you can't just try and maul people every single time. So what did Justin Frye view Tegra's learning curve like in his true freshman year that has put him in position to now be able to compete for a job in his second year?
We go off base bin, balance, and burst, and so trimming the fat and getting every guy you get comes in and they're elite. Like Tegra's an elite level player in high school. He's an All-American. He All-Star games. He does all this stuff. Then he shows up here and he's Tegra, the freshman. So yeah, for him to see that, good. Now, how do you get back to playing to your level? You work through those base fundamentals. Ryan talked about today. We've got great effort and technique. That's what we were focusing on today. So if you're a high-level player and you have great effort and great technique, then you'll produce high level. Younger guys, on top of that, though, have, well, do I go right or left? Do I have this guy or that guy? Do I have this? So there's some more stuff that's spinning in their head. So the more you can dive into that and slow that down, then they're able to play faster again. So I'm really happy with what he's doing and really unhappy with 2 or 3 plays that he did today because he didn't block the right guy. But his attitude's great. He's so passionate about being his best version of himself. He's so passionate about being a great football player, and we're just trying to stack those days on top of each other.
Another second-year player who is really maybe on the verge of taking a bigger role this season is Carson Hines. Mentioned earlier, he is kind of the front runner, maybe very early at the center position. Again, it's very early. So when did the light start to come on for him? What did that look like? Because you come in as a true freshman. He was not even an early enrollee. He came in last summer, and then the light sounded like it sort of started to come on towards the end of the season, maybe in bowl practices. Luke Whippler talked a little bit about that after Ohio State's pro day. So what did that look like when the light started to come on for Carson Hines?
You saw flashes.
Yeah.
To where he was doing things that maybe true freshmen shouldn't do all the time or normally don't do. So if you mean like light coming on there, like, yeah, you'd watch some clips and be like, oh, that was good. Who is that? Oh, that was Carson. All right, here we go. Yeah. But I think that's a natural progression for a guy to say, we talk about with Tegra, like, he wants to be really good. He's on him. He's his hardest critic now. And so he's in extra all the time on top of the film study, and he's all over it. He wants to be really good that way. So that's going to continue to happen again. I said, I'm just repeating myself, but like, he's a high level talent that just is figuring out how to play at 296 pounds, just figuring out how to play at the full speed. But if you continue to work, then that's going to keep happening that way.
When you are breaking in 3 new offensive linemen at a time and doing it against Ohio State's defensive front, it's not always going to be perfect. That's just kind of how life is. It's not always going to be, not everyone's going to grade 100% at any point, especially not in the spring when they're all just sort of starting to try to work together. So do you kind of have to give some of those new starters some leeway to make mistakes at this point? This question was sort of specifically posed about Zen Michalski, the starting right tackle, or the first team right tackle, at least for the moment. But it kind of applies, I think, to a lot of different people.
Well, they need to learn from him. I think that's what with him. Like, in the fall, you win or you lose. In the spring, there's win or loser drills, but you got to learn why you lost it. So I think that's what he's saying of, no, we don't want them to make mistakes, but like, why did I make that mistake? I don't need to sit and figure out, well, maybe because of this or that. Like, was it my technique? Was it my understanding of the play? Whatever that may be. And then they have to go do that and learn from that, but then they can't be repeat offenders. So like, you make a mistake, okay, great, learn from it. The next time that shows, the same thing can't happen again. How do I correct it? How do I get better with that? And so like, starting with today and then Saturday, we'll get a little bit of a scrimmage going on. That'll be really good for those guys going to play the game and then understanding like, oh, I lost that rep and it was a sack, it was a TFL, or look what I used my technique, I did that and we made the play.
Frye was asked a little bit later on in the press conference, once again, about Josh Fryer's confidence level, because that was something that Fryer had talked about. Now, I'm going to give you this one as well, because it's a little bit of a different answer than he gave the first time. So how important is that to have that confidence sort of build if you're going to be the left tackle really getting him ready to play in such a crucial spot this year?
He's building his confidence, which will make him play better. Nothing's set in stone. I mean, it was his day 4, like I just said. I think he walked up. We've got 11 left, and plus another 30-some in the fall. So, but if he feels that way and is playing that way, then his play will accelerate and get better. But last year, I mean, he was 6, and he was grinding, and he was game ready every week, and we found ways to get him on the field. And when his number was called, he would go in and make those plays. And so now, when there's an open spot in front of him, that confidence should help propel him into saying, "This is my spot, and I'm going to own it."
We talked earlier about a bunch of different guys who are in the mix at center this spring. One guy who is not really on the field right now is Jacob James. He's out for the spring due to injury. But so where does he fit in when he finally gets it back and is able to go later on this year?
He's having a great spring for him, the best he can. Every time I turn around, he's behind me. He's like, "Coach, what's the call? Where's the fit?" You see him watching the tape. He's doing exactly what he has to do to be ready to come in and compete in the fall, right? And so I'm really happy with what he's doing. He's a pissed off bulldog sometimes sitting back there because he wants to be in there and he can't, and that's fine. But he's doing exactly what a guy that can't be taking the physical reps needs to be doing right now, so that when he is, given a leash and let go to go play, he's doing a really good job with that.
There had been some talk over the offseason about potentially kicking Donovan Jackson out from left guard to left tackle. Maybe he was going to be the Buckeyes' best option out there, protecting the quarterback's blind side at the tackle position. And ultimately, so far at least, he's staying at left guard. So how did that decision get made to keep him at guard and not move him out to tackle?
Well, we just had a good meeting of he wanted to know what the plan was and what his, where did we see with him? Because just like all the guys with Donnie, Donnie's an elite level player and he wants to play that way. And Donnie's also a team guy, so he wants to do what would be best for the team. So our conversation off of that was just simply what do we see as our plan? And I mean, could Donnie play? Yeah, Donnie could play all 5 positions. He's that athletic. He could play outside, inside. He could he'd have to, cut the things off his wrist, but he could snap if we needed him to. I mean, he's that smart and he's that athletic. So just keep wiggling through spring. But I mean, right now he's in a really good groove at the guard position, enhancing his skill set. Maybe doing some more trigonometry stuff, whereas a guy like Austin Sierreveld is still using his abacus and counting 1, 2, and 3. But they're both doing numbers right now, which is good.
And finally, the Buckeyes have 4 true freshman offensive linemen in camp this spring. Now, I'm going to give you the standard caveat. I'm sure you've heard it before. Please do not expect any true freshman offensive linemen to contribute this fall. It's asking a lot. There's a lot of transition. There's a lot of development that goes on. So you kind of have to just, no matter who it is, you kind of have to pump the brakes. There are only so many Orlando Paces in the world. And really, maybe there's only one Orlando Pace in the world. And so you can't necessarily expect a guy to come in his first year. Okay, so with that out of the way, how are the true freshmen progressing so far this offseason?
All of them have come along. I alluded to earlier, those freshmen and those rookies right now. April 15th should be about prom time normally for them. Instead, they're getting ready for a spring football game. And so the extra practices and the stuff they're getting is good for all those guys. And the best thing about Luke and Austin and Josh and Miles, all for mid-year guys, you haven't seen that whoa, overwhelming feeling yet. The rest of it, yeah, they got a long way to go. Josh is playing with a lot of confidence right now, and he's working the game, and he's seeing the things that he can enhance, and he's finding his warts that he's got to fix. And then, a guy, Georgie's doing a good job too behind him. That's another guy that George has just now been here a year. So, George Fitzpatrick last year you're asking about, and he didn't know, which shoe was right and left and how to tie him. And now he's 298, 302 pounds. He got his black stripe off today, He's playing better just because he's another year mature and bigger and stronger. And so just really excited and having fun where everybody's at a little different level, but everybody's getting better right now.
Well, that will do it for Justin Frye and the offensive line talk for the day. And then again, make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. We're going to have a bunch of coverage after that scrimmage on Saturday morning. Scrimmage starts around 10:30 or so. So expect maybe a little after lunchtime, something like that. We'll see. You never know exactly how long these things are going to go. And then they're going to get a chance to talk to Brian Day for a few minutes. And then they should have a little more coverage and analysis and insight into who they're seeing, what they're seeing, all that kind of stuff. It is one more good data point for us this spring as we sort of track who's moving up in the depth charts, who's moving down, guys switching positions. Maybe they're trying some different stuff out. This will be the most extensive viewing that we've gotten so far this spring, and it should be really, really insightful and informative stuff from Mark and Tony and Kevin a little later on today. So make sure you check that out at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. And of course, at BuckeyeHuddle.com, they will have a bunch of written content there as well. If you are the type that prefers written content, they will have, I'm sure, notebooks and all that kind of stuff on what they saw, what they heard, and all of that. This is why you pay for insider access, because they will literally be inside Ohio State practice for that first scrimmage of the spring. It should be a really, really interesting one. Also, pretty big recruiting weekend as well. So, going to be a lot of stuff for our recruiting guys to talk about as well. So, make sure you are signed up today at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.